Look at how funky he is.
Welcome back. So obviously you clicked on the thumbnail, so we all know why you're here. Today I'm going to be talking about the 1989 film Teen Witch. And it has kind of become a cult classic, but known for one particular scene.
I'm king, and they know it.
But we're not going to talk about that right now. We're gonna get to that scene. First, like I said, this movie came out in 1989, directed by Dorian Walker, and it stars Robin Lively as Louise, the Teen Witch. Now, let me just start by saying, of course, as with these movies from the 80s and the 90s, whenever someone was supposed to be a teenager, they looked like they were in their mid-20s, and pretty much everyone in this cast who's supposed to be a teen looks like they're definitely in their 20s. But whatever, that's normal. Let's talk about this movie. What you may not know, if you've ever heard about this movie, what you may not know up front is that it's almost a musical. There's a lot of singing and musical numbers in the movie that really kind of take you out of it, because if you take away the musical aspect of it, and maybe even the witch aspect of it, it really is just another teen drama comedy that has to do with a kid who's not popular who becomes popular. It's basically a witch version of Teen Wolf. The movie starts out with basically a music video of Louise and the guy she's in love with. Song really, it comes back later in the movie, and it's sung by an artist who's supposed to be famous in this world. The opening scene is strange because it really doesn't directly relate to the movie. You think that with a scene that opened the movie, it would somehow be explained later, or somehow a scene similar to this would play out in the movie, but it doesn't. So the opening scene is actually kind of weird. But the movie opens up with Louise, she's in bed. Her little brother, who's really weird, by the way, he's always eating junk food. He's under her bed eating a cake and also reading her diary. It's typical 80s, 90s drama between siblings. Then Louise goes to school, and then the typical things happen that happen in these movies. She gets embarrassed in class. The teacher's reading a page from her diary that's supposed to be homework. Very quickly, 6.5 minutes in, you get the first music video / song in this movie. As seemed to be the typical habit in Hollywood back in the 80s and 90s. It's a rap song called High School Blues. Now it's performed by these 3 white dudes, right? And all right, whatever, that's not the big deal here, but it's so corny.
Time we're feeling cool. Don't really need to be hanging in school. It's okay, we got nothing to lose.
It's nearly as corny as what you probably came to see. Fortunately, that scene is over pretty fast. Now I will say this movie is very cliche when it comes to its stereotypical characters. You have the typical jocks, typical cool kids who are actually like the rappers in this movie, typical nerds. Everything, there's nothing special here. This movie doesn't do anything extraordinary or special when it comes to characters. And one thing I noticed, I watched this movie years ago, back when it came out. Me and my sister actually used to really enjoy this movie. Not because it was good, but because it was just so like cringy even then. But one thing I notice now as an adult watching it, there really aren't that many people of color in this movie. Like they're kind of sprinkled in the background here and there, but there are entire scenes of entire classrooms at this school, and it's like not one person of color, but whatever. And by now you already know that Louise has a crush on a guy named Brad. He's one of the jocks. He dates the most popular girl in school. What you soon find out is that Brad, though, unlike a lot of movies, Brad isn't a jerk. Like he's really just a nice guy who happens to want to date the most popular girl in school. So they really set Brad up in this movie to not be an asshole. Like he's actually a pretty decent guy. 10 minutes in, you get another song in the locker room, and the girls are singing about how they like boys.
Boys, we like boys. We like boys. We like boys.
It's terrible. I don't know who's writing these songs. And it's still not as bad.
I'm hot, and you're not. But if you want to hang with me, I'll give it one shot. Top that.
So one evening, Louise is riding home on her bicycle, and she gets run off the road by accident, and it happens to be Brad and his girlfriend. Brad offers to help her. She's like, no, don't worry about it, I'm good. So she's walking home because the tire's all busted. She walks to her house. The house is owned by a psychic named Serena, played by Zelda Rubinstein from Poltergeist. She goes in the house, she's talking to Serena, And eventually Serena tells her that she's one of them, like she's a witch, and on her 16th birthday, she'll get her powers. Just what happens, her 16th birthday is coming up, I think like the next day or something. So she gets her little prophecy and she goes home. So soon after, she's supposed to be having a sweet 16 party, but no one shows up. Her best friend's on the way, but no one else is showing because the popular girl was throwing a party the same night. And it was almost like out of spite. No one shows up for her party, but the same night she gains her witch powers. She doesn't yet realize that she has the powers, but she starts seeing little weird things happening whenever she kind of wishes for something. She gets invited to another party with the popular girl's cousin. Well, this guy shows up at her door. He's a total nerd. But honestly, like nowadays, this same dude would probably be like some really popular hipster or whatever. But anyway, he's a nerd and he was a creep. Louise goes to the party. She changes out of her clothes, puts on something a little more fitting, and she tries to enjoy the party with the guy. Brad actually comes over to her when she's talking to her friend. She's like, man, I wish Brad would look at me. He looks at her. Then she says, I wish he'd come over here. And he comes over there. So these little things are starting to happen with her powers. Well, anyway, Brad comes over and he asks her, could they go outside and talk? They go talk, and he wants her to help him with his homework. And she's kind of disappointed because she thought he just wanted to talk to her. On the way home, the nerdy guy that she went to the party with, he's being a real creep. She wishes him to just go away, and he does. While he's driving, he just disappears. This guy never shows back up in the movie, which is kind of weird because he should be like a missing person, and he's never mentioned again. But he was a little rapey, so whatever. Louise is trying to get her brother to clean the kitchen because he's always doing something disgusting, like making a mess in the kitchen or whatever. And she eventually just turns him into a dog. She didn't mean it, it just kind of happened. Well, he's running around the house, the mom's coming home, and she takes the dog and she throws him in the bathtub, and for whatever reason, water like reverses these spells. They don't really explain that much in the movie, but water like reverses spells. So she throws him in the bathtub, he turns back to himself. And now she's kind of realizing that she has powers. She goes back to the psychic Serena to kind of figure out what's going on. She ends up leaving with a spell book, and she's studying it to try to figure out how she can use these witch powers to her advantage. Now, like I said, up to this point, this movie really isn't it's not terrible. If it wasn't for like the really cringy music, this would be like a normal teen movie. Nothing special about it, but not terrible. I will say this though, the sound editing, it's weird. The way that the people sound when they're talking. Like sometimes there's scenes where people are outside and talking, but it sounds like they're all inside a closet.
Your mother's a joke. Everyone feels sorry for you.
And who are you, Princess Di?
It's weird. So after studying the spell book, she wants to try out her powers. So in the locker room the next day at school, she gets the cool girls to start arguing with each other, and one of them pushes the other one into a pool. And then she's like, okay, now I know that I have control over this and I can kind of use it to my advantage. She has a teacher who's always kind of being an ass to her for whatever reason. It's not even explained because she's apparently like a really good student. But he gets way too assholey in the class one day. So she decides when she goes home, she makes a little voodoo doll of him, brings it back to school the next day, makes him undress in the class. Of course, he gets sent home from work because I think the principal or somebody walks in. Well, you think that joke was over, but it's not. And it's maybe like, I don't even want to say the funniest joke in the movie because there aren't a lot of funny jokes in the movie. But when you think that joke is over, it isn't. Because her little brother gets the voodoo doll, kicks it down the stairs. And this is when the teacher's kind of walking out of school. So then he jumps down the stairs and rolls. And then the mom picks up the voodoo doll. And she's like, oh my God, it's disgusting. So she throws it in a washing machine. And then the teacher is walking down the street. So he walks into a car wash. It's a decent joke. It's not hilarious, but it's probably the best joke in the movie. Louise also uses her powers to help her favorite teacher, who wanted to be an actress back in the day, but it didn't work out for her. She ended up helping her win a lottery somehow, and she met some Argentinian guy who's taking her around the world. So now she's happy and she loves Louise, and she's leaving, and her life's going to be great. So Louise is trying to do some good things with her powers as well. Now, 57 minutes into this movie, you get what might be the most infamous and most incredible, maybe the worst, maybe the best rap song you've ever seen in a movie. But I'm still not going to talk about it right now. Fast forward a little bit. Louise learns a spell to become popular. She becomes the most popular girl in school. Everyone tries to emulate her, and then she starts treating her best friend like shit. Typical thing that happens in these movies is not really, nothing, like I said, nothing unusual is happening in this movie. There's another music video about 66 minutes in called The Most Popular Girl, where she's just basically talking about how she's the most popular girl in school now. And Brad ends up falling in love with her. fast forward a little bit, and she goes back to Serena to try to remove the spell that made herself really popular, which they end up doing, and she goes to the dance at the end, and Brad actually falls in love with who she is. The end. Now, I have to talk about Top That.
Supersonic, idiotic, disconnected, not respected. Who would ever really want to go and top that?
I challenge anyone watching this video to pull up that scene on YouTube or anywhere else and watch it completely through without turning your head, closing your eyes, or sighing or sucking your teeth. I challenge you. It's nearly impossible. I'm going to play a clip from this song, and hopefully YouTube doesn't flag it too bad. But here you go.
What's this?
Stop that.
But give.
Top that. I don't really give a about trying to stop that.
Top that.
Big deal.
Stop that.
Now, I can't explain to you why someone would think that this scene belonged in this movie. Why these characters belonged in this movie. I will say that Louise's friend had the best part of that whole rap, but whatever. Who approved this? So you know there was a room full of executives, probably a bunch of old white guys, who were thinking, what do the kids like these days? They like rap music. Let's put that in this movie.
Oh my God.
You can dream until you're blue, but you will never top that.
Then they see it and they're like, yeah, that's exactly what the kids like. I don't know why they didn't get some approval from someone else, or at the very least, not make it so corny. Like, put some effort into this. Like, what are they doing? This is the reason most people even remember this movie. This scene is so infamous. It was the reason that my sister and I would watch this movie over and over again when it would come on cable seemingly every day. Even if you've never seen this movie, you've probably heard of this song. You've probably heard it or seen it. It is gloriously horrible. So anyway, y'all, that's Teen Witch. Check it out. If for nothing else, just for the Top That scene. Please let me know in the comments if you've seen this movie and if you enjoy Top That. And if you do, let me know. Anyway, and I'll be back soon. Later.
And you're not. But if you want to hang with me, I'll give it one shot. Top